For centuries after the great caliphates moved their political capitals north to Damascus and Baghdad, the heart of the Arabian Peninsula returned to a quieter rhythm. The armies of the desert had carried Arabic language, Islamic faith, and Arabian influence across continents, but within much of the peninsula itself, life remained shaped by scarcity, distance, and tradition. Bedouin tribes followed the seasons, reading clouds, stars, wells, and grazing lands with inherited precision. Along the Gulf, pearl divers sailed in wooden dhows, while on the Red Sea coast, pilgrims continued through the Hijaz. Mecca and Medina remained the spiritual anchors of the Islamic world. It was a land of severe beauty and profound endurance. But by the beginning of the 20th century, the old order was beginning to tremble. Steamships were changing trade, empires were weakening, new borders were being drawn by distant powers, and beneath the sand lay a force that would soon remake not only Arabia, but the modern world itself. Tonight, we look at the modern history of the Arabian Peninsula, from the campaigns of Ibn Saud and the fall of the old tribal order to the discovery of oil, the rise of the Gulf states, and the search for a future beyond fossil fuels. To understand the birth of the modern peninsula, we must begin in Najd, the rugged central plateau of Arabia. At the turn of the 20th century, Najd was far from imperial capitals and ocean ports. It was a world of mud-brick towns, fortified oases, tribal rivalries, and harsh desert routes. Yet from this austere landscape came Abdulaziz ibn Saud. His family had once ruled Riyadh, but they had been driven into exile in Kuwait. From there, Abdulaziz watched, waited, and planned the recovery of his ancestral lands. In 1902, he launched the raid that became legendary. With a small band of loyal warriors, he entered Riyadh by night, attacked the Masmak Fort, and seized the city. It was a daring act, but it was also only the beginning. Over the next 3 decades, Ibn Saud expanded his power through warfare, negotiation, religious alliances, tribal diplomacy, and marriage ties. His campaigns brought together Najd, Al-Hasa, Asir, and the Hijaz, home to Mecca and Medina. The conquest of the Hijaz was especially important because it gave the new ruler control over the holy cities and the annual Hajj pilgrimage. In 1932, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was officially proclaimed. After centuries of fragmentation, much of the peninsula's largest territory was united under a single state. But unity did not mean prosperity. The new kingdom was poor, thinly connected, and almost entirely lacking the infrastructure of a modern state. There were few paved roads, limited medical services, little electricity, and vast distances between settlements. Government revenue depended heavily on pilgrimage income, and that income was vulnerable to war, disease, and global economic crises. The wider Gulf faced hardships of its own. For generations, coastal communities from Kuwait to Bahrain, Qatar, and the Trucial States had depended on pearling, fishing, boat building, and trade. Pearl divers descended repeatedly without modern equipment, risking drowning, disease, and exhaustion for a harvest that might or might not bring profit. Then, in the early 20th century, Japanese cultured pearls entered the world market. Combined with the Great Depression, this devastated the natural pearl economy. Families who had lived from the sea for generations were pushed into poverty. That new economy began with a gamble. King Abdulaziz granted American geologists permission to search for oil in eastern Arabia. At first, the search seemed hopeless. Drilling teams endured heat, isolation, equipment failures, and repeated disappointment. Wells came up dry. Investors wondered whether the project should be abandoned. Then on March 3, 1938, at Dammam Number 7, the drill struck oil in commercial quantities. The discovery opened the door to one of the most dramatic economic revolutions in history. World War II slowed development, but after the war, the demand for oil exploded. Cars, airplanes, factories, ships, and power stations needed fuel, and Arabia possessed it on a scale that stunned the world. The Arabian American Oil Company, later known as Aramco, developed fields, pipelines, ports, and company towns. Dhahran grew into a new settlement shaped by engineers, administrators, and workers from across the region and abroad. Ras Tanura became one of the great oil export terminals of the modern age. Oil did more than enrich governments, it changed the meaning of time. A society that had moved for centuries at the speed of camel caravans and sailing winds was suddenly connected to global markets, corporate schedules, and international politics. Roads spread across the desert. Airports brought distant capitals within reach. Desalination plants turned seawater into drinking water. Hospitals, schools, ministries, and universities rose where older generations had known fortified towns and scattered settlements. Education widened, literacy rose, students were sent abroad, and new professions appeared. Oil also placed Arabia at the center of global power. During the Cold War, world powers watched Gulf energy with intense interest. In 1960, major oil-producing countries created OPEC, giving producers a stronger voice in the global energy system. The oil embargo and price shocks of the 1970s revealed how dependent the industrialized world had become on Middle Eastern energy. Decisions made in Riyadh, Kuwait City, Doha, Abu Dhabi, and other Gulf capitals could now shake economies across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. The transformation was not limited to Saudi Arabia. Kuwait became one of the first Gulf societies to experience rapid welfare state development. Bahrain developed finance and services. Qatar used gas wealth to become one of the richest states on earth and a major diplomatic and media power. Oman, under Sultan Qaboos from 1970 onward, emerged from isolation through roads, schools, hospitals, and careful state building. Yemen, by contrast, followed a more turbulent path, shaped by revolutions, civil wars, regional division, and continuing hardship. In the lower Gulf, the old Trucial states faced their own turning point. In 1971, 6 emirates united to form the United Arab Emirates, soon joined by Ras Al Khaimah in 1972. Under Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan and the other ruling families, the federation used oil wealth, trade, and diplomacy to build institutions at extraordinary speed. Abu Dhabi became the political and oil-rich capital, while Dubai, with less oil but a powerful mercantile tradition, turned itself into a global hub for aviation, logistics, finance, tourism, and real estate. Yet the rise of glass towers and highways did not erase older layers of identity. The Gulf cities were modern, but they were also ports shaped by Arabs, Persians, Indians, Africans, Baluchis, and many others who crossed the Indian Ocean world. Their cosmopolitanism grew from older patterns of trade and movement, now magnified by airports, container ships, and global capital. The new wealth also created difficult questions. Oil brought welfare and opportunity, but also dependence. Rapid urbanization strained water supplies and energy use. Millions of migrant workers became essential to construction and services. Modernization brought comfort and global influence, but also cultural anxiety over how to preserve language, religion, family structures, and desert heritage. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, leaders across the peninsula knew that oil could not remain the only foundation. A new transformation began: diversification. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, the UAE's investment in aviation, ports, technology, and tourism, Qatar's global energy strategy, Oman's logistics ambitions, Bahrain's financial sector, and Kuwait's investment institutions all reflected the same realization. The future must be broader than the oil well. One of the most striking changes has been the rediscovery of Arabia's deep past. For much of the modern era, the peninsula was often imagined only through oil, deserts, and religion. But archaeology has revealed a richer story. At Hegra, monumental Nabatean tombs stand carved into sandstone cliffs. In Alula, ancient caravan routes are being studied and open to visitors. In Oman, Bronze Age tombs and frankincense landscapes recall early trade networks. In Yemen, the ruins of Marib speak of irrigation, temples, and caravan wealth long before Islam. This is perhaps the greatest irony of the modern Arabian transformation. The future is being built by looking backward as well as forward. Museums, restored districts, archaeological parks, and cultural festivals are telling stories that oil wealth once overshadowed. Diriyah, the ancestral home of the Saudi state, is being restored as a historic symbol. Traditional crafts, poetry, falconry, camel racing, sailing, and coffee culture are preserved as living symbols of continuity. And even amid steel, glass, desalination plants, satellite networks, and artificial intelligence labs, the ancient soul of Arabia remains visible. It is found in the majlis, where hospitality is still expressed through coffee, dates, conversation, and respect for guests. It is found in the desert camp, where silence, stars, and open space still shape the imagination. It is found in the call to prayer, echoing between skyscrapers, in families gathering during Ramadan, and in poetry that still treats the desert not as emptiness, but as memory. Looking back across the full sweep of our journey, we see that Arabia has never been static. It has been green Arabia, crossed by prehistoric migrants when climate opened corridors through the desert. It has been the Arabia of frankincense caravans, incense kingdoms, ports, and ancient dams. It has been spiritual Arabia, where Islam emerged and reshaped world history. And in the modern age, it became industrial Arabia, the energy heart of the planet, a place where oil compressed centuries of change into a few astonishing decades. Today, as the sun sets over the empty quarter, its golden light touches many ages at once. It touches the ruins of Marib, the carved tombs of Hegra, the coral houses of Old Jeddah, the forts of Oman, the towers of Doha and Dubai, the highways of Riyadh, and the ports that send energy and goods across the world. In Arabia, history is not buried beneath the sand. It rises through it. The story of the peninsula is therefore not simply a story of wealth. It is a story of adaptation. Again and again, its people have faced scarcity, isolation, empire, migration, religious change, economic collapse, sudden abundance, and the demands of the future. The desert did not prevent history here, it created a particular kind of history. Demanding, mobile, spiritual, commercial, and fiercely imaginative. The journey that began with camel bells and caravan fires now continues in research laboratories, restored ancient cities, solar fields, airports, ports, and new urban visions. Whether these ambitions succeed fully or only partly, they reveal something constant about Arabia: the refusal to accept the desert as a limit. The spirit of the peninsula remains a testament to humanity's ability to dream, endure, and flourish in one of the most challenging landscapes on Earth. Thank you for watching this complete trilogy on the Layback historian. If you enjoyed this journey through the sands of time, subscribe, leave a comment about your favorite era of Arabian history, and share this video with fellow explorers of the past. Until next time, keep looking back to understand where we are going.